Looplings, and welcome back to the Loopy Homestead. We need to prepare for getting some electrical to the barn and the chicken coop finally. When I talked about our fencing, I described how we use a solar electric fencer because we don't have power to our barn. We want to rectify that. We're still going to use the solar fencer because it's the best option, you know, for storms and things, as I said. But it'd be nice to have a light in the barn. Now that we have pigs, there's an opportunity to have piglets. So we need to make sure we can have heat lamps in there when we want them. So this is a project that's just been kind of on the docket on that 2-year plan that I showed you. And today's the day that it's going to start getting worked on. So we have had our young men out here digging us a new trench. This is not just for electrical, but we'll go down far enough that we can put a water line down in it and put a new frost-free hydrant inside the barn. This will make it so in the wintertime we're not having to walk all the way to the house, which is not a massive difference. It's just when it's cold and like below 4, really not a fun aspect. So this will mean that we'll be able to use it inside the barn, be able to get what we got to do done out here faster. But we'll run it from an existing hose line that we already have at the house, trench it down a little farther, put a couple more inches of dirt in, and then we will also connect to electrical at the house to run a line this way through it so we will have both water and power in the barn. Digging this trench here means we've come across a lot of really fantastic fat earthworms. There's one, and these ladies are about to fight over it.
Oh.
There it went.
Oh, I got a piece. Oh, you. Oh, nope. He's gone. Vaporized.
Hey, yeah. Whoa. Yeah. I'm starting to get the hang of it.
These guys will be tuckered tonight.
Hey, yeah. What? Wings out in forward. Hey. Yeah.
Okay, scoop some of this out. Don't stab it down. Just scoop some of it out.
Okay.
Good job.
Oh, there's some dirt in the way. Hey, yeah.
When you're 6 and you want to make sure and put your 2 cents worth in helping.
Okay, scoop some of these out. Just don't stab it down. Just scoop it like a spoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's one.
Oh, one chicken got the worm. And then the off chance there might be something else, here they all come. I think our chickens like us. It's a bar. Hi, happy hands. Really happy girls.
Today we're filling in the hole. And I have some dinner. And once we're finished, we'll go inside. Can't wait for a new video. We did, Mommy.
Ooh, I'm gonna get high off paint fumes. Or wait, no, glue fumes?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Sniffing glue.
Huffing glue.
Nothing like sniffing glue to get high.
Which is not the reason we call it the Loopy Homestead, you know, but just...
Oh, everyone in Loopy Homestead.
Go to the Loopy Homestead where we get high off glue.
The guys did a really good job of digging that trench, filling it in. We've got both our water and our electrical lines in now. And we've even gotten our standpipe in for the barn water. And it's working. It's going to be really nice this winter to be able to just come right here to get buckets of water, mostly for the horse, potentially for the pigs, but we have another plan for their winter setup. But either way, this is going to be a real convenience. You know, really, I know the next faucet is back behind me at the house, but when we get the snow that we get here, it's just, there were days that we had like below 10 degrees, and it just, you just get to that point where you want to run in, or I should say run out, get your farm chores done, and run back inside to the pellet stove where it's warm. Those are not really the days that you want to spend a long time with cold hands in water or carrying buckets that might be sloshing against your pants. So it's really just a matter of convenience in that really cold time. Ultimately too though, when it's hot, now today it's nice and sunny, but I am still only in like 64 degrees. But in the summertime, we did occasionally get days over 100 degrees. And honestly, to be able to step inside somewhere out of the beating sun to do those farm chores can be equally important. So honestly, totally about convenience. And we figured if we can, we might as well. So in addition to getting this done, now our next step in the project with getting power and water to the barn is to actually do the power portion of things. Again, we already have our wire run here. I've got it capped off at the moment. But we're going to run it up the wall here, and we have a couple different things that we're doing. We are going to do a switch with an auxiliary plug on it here. The switch will run a singular fluorescent light. That's to give us some extra light when it's cold and dark in those winter months. An extra plug in case we need some power just outside of the barn here. And then we will do a 4-way plug over by our pigs. That's to facilitate some heat lamps. So if we farrow some piglets, we've got some extra warmth for them in case we need it. Hopefully they'll be doing most of their farrowing during the spring and early summer, so it won't be too necessary. But we get unpredictable times in that like May or March to sort of early May-ish, like we are right now. And then on top of that, we want to make sure that we have a 4-way plug over by our horse. She has a nice heated water bucket. Yes, I know she's a little bit posh, but she's old, so she kind of deserves it. But this way we can plug in her water bucket and make sure that she has ice-free water all winter too. Again, this saves our hands from having to pick out chunks of ice or dump it, making everything much nicer for us and our animals. Hanging out with our piggies here, getting ready to install some of our electric. Just a couple of things before we get started. We've got some weather-resistant boxes that the plugs will go in, and then we also have covers of the same nature. These are the kind that can still be used while the outlet is in use. Just a matter of keeping things from getting any big droplets of moisture in it. They're inside the barn. The likelihood that they will get wet is very small, but we are dealing with electricity in an outdoor situation, and so we just want to take the proper precautions. I am currently in Sam's stall. This is where we will be installing the light that we're going to have for the barn. Coincidentally, it's a light that came out of my kitchen earlier this year. It was a big fluorescent thing, and it didn't match the second light that was in the same room. So I bought 2 new lights, made a match, and so we had this extra one, like handy dandy, left over. And when we were deciding what would be good for the barn, we realized, oh yeah, we saved that light. So it is a situation where we have gotten a chance to repurpose things, which you know from some of the other projects we've done, we like to do when we can. So you can see my dad's ladder back here behind me. It's going to go all the way up, and the beam that it's leaning against here is going to be the one that we are installing it on. Yes, it's not hanging down. Yes, it's hanging, pointing out towards the side. But we don't have any like rafters in the barn that would be good for placing it horizontally so that it's shown down. And for our purposes, it's not going to hurt us one bit if it faces the wall. It will give us all the light that we need to deal with, you know, anything going on in the stall. We're pretty sure it'll give us enough light for when we're dealing with the pigs in their stalls. If nothing else, we have a couple other like plug-in auxiliary lights. We can always plug those into a plug and give us extra access to light in the other side if we really need it. We just don't think we're going to. So our decision making in why we're hanging it there also has to do with having to run the least amount of wire. We didn't want to have to, do something crazy all around the barn just to get it in just the right space. We figured that was good enough. It'll be close to the plug that we're doing for her bucket, so we don't have to do too much finagling and using twice the wire that we should really have to. Up here is where I will be installing the box for the pig plugs. We wanted to make sure that it was adjacent to each stall to make sure that when we've got the heat lamps for later on, it'll be really easy for us to just plug them on in. It won't take any extra extension cords, things of that nature. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the first box put up here. It's got a little couple of ears for me to put in on it. Gonna get it hung and call it good until we're ready to wire it. So I started a pilot hole here just so I can put my screw through the box, and then I can screw it up without having to have any extra hands. And there it is. Our next box, which will house the light switch plug combo, is going to go right here on the wall. Our last box is going to go right here. It puts it in both the prime positions for the heated water bucket and anything in this near vicinity which we may or may not need it for. Chances are we're only ever going to use one plug at one time a year, but you know what? You never know. We could 6 years down the road from now be wishing we would have done more than just the one. And I like to plan for the eventuality of things. So 4 plugs it is. So a few videos ago, I said there's never just one project on the homestead. Granddad brought down the barn tonight.
Just had a 2x6 come loose that was nailed, and the nails were gotten bad, so they popped loose. Gonna have to screw them all back in, take care of things, then continue on with the wiring.
So you can see up at the top of the barn here where the wiring comes across this 2x6, and it just kind of gave up while he was on the ladder trying to attach the wire. So before we can finish the wiring, we will have to fix the barn.
Not a problem.
I am happy to say the electrical in the barn is done. We have finished putting in all of our boxes, all of our plugs, and our covers. We didn't show us doing the actual electrical work because, frankly, we're not electricians. We're comfortable doing these projects around the homestead, but if you really want to learn how to do it, there is a wealth of people who are better at teaching that than we would be. That being said, we've done double gang boxes for some of our plugs like I had shown with some waterproof covers. This will keep, the majority of the moisture out of them, while still letting us plug in things like our heated water bucket and then heat lamps over in the pig side. We installed for a light up above me. You saw us putting that in. We installed a light switch with a plug. Like I said, that'll allow us to use some electricity outside if we want to, as well as independently work the light. And I will show you in a minute what we're going to do with the plug over by the pig stall. What we wanted this one for is so when we have piglets, we can make sure to do some heat lamps in here to keep them warm. Again, I mentioned it earlier, our pigs will likely farrow in spring and early summer, and so we shouldn't have a great need for making sure that they're super warm. But because we get unpredictable weather at that time of year, we want to make sure we have that option if and when we need it. So what I've got here is I've got a heat lamp that I'm going to put together. you know, standard heat lamp. It's got the clamp on it. Typical heat bulb. These guys I've got here are a 250 watt. We can always get less wattage if we want, but generally what we just tend to do, if it's getting too hot for any of the animals, we raise them up or we lower them rather than changing out the bulbs a bunch. So we've got the bulb here. We do like to keep the guards on them. Just prevents, you know, anything really from getting up against it that shouldn't. The likelihood that anything would be against these is pretty slim because we do try to keep them away from where the animals will actually touch them. But it's worth it to have a safeguard against that kind of stuff anyway. So our plan with these when we're not using them, of course when we are using them we will find a way to suspend them appropriately. But when we are not using them, the plan is to just clip them up here. And then I have got a screw, you probably can't see it, but it's right here. And we're just gonna take and loop the cords over that. That'll keep it out of the way of the pigs. It'll make sure that we have easy access to them, that they don't accidentally get allocated somewhere else for some other need. We have, you know, as you know, some heat lamps around the property. So we want to make sure that the ones that are meant for the pigs stay with the pigs. So right here is exactly where they'll live and they'll be ready for us to use when the time comes. Lastly is our box for our switch and our extra plug. Again, if you're gonna do an outdoor plug, get one with a cover that can be closed while you're using the plug. You never know if you're gonna accidentally spray it with hose or if you're gonna get a rainstorm just like suddenly. It'd be nice to not have to worry that something's gonna get in and cause electrical damage. I say this because when we replaced the one on the side of the house, the previous one simply had the little flat covers that go over. You can open them up when you're using them and then close it when you're done. But we did notice that there was a little bit of electrical damage to that plug. I think that at some point while in use, it did get water in there, and it's lucky that we didn't have a problem. Not to mention that particular plug was not, I think, meant for outdoor use. It was a much older plug, so probably before these kinds of things were a commonality among homes. But it's just better to pick the more weather-resistant options when you are outside. That being said, this one opens sideways, so we can get to this switch here. And then it's got this extra plug and the cord can come out of the bottom here so that way it can be, you know, used while it's closed. That extra plug is going to be really handy for using a heat lamp this winter. We recently got a new member to our homestead who you will meet later, but he is getting a new house soon right next to the barn. Or maybe she. We're not super sure. We could probably figure out ourselves, but it really doesn't matter to us all that much. But it is a nice fuzzy little new friend with kind of a backstory. So expect that in here in the near future. But anyways, it's just a nice thing to have this going on in the barn. For the most part, yes, the project in the barn is completely finished now, but we do have more wiring and ditch work to do in the future with our ditch witches, which would be the kids who earn their dinners sometimes by manual labor. I'll take you out to show that real quick. Our feathered friends will be the last thing to join the electrical group of the barn. They too have had all of their heat lamps and things in the wintertime run off extension cords that come from the house. This again is another issue that we want to rectify because those extension cords, they get in the way if you're mowing in the summertime, or we worry about damage during the winter time. You know, it's not an ideal situation. So when we get a chance soon, we will be digging a trench from the barn to the chicken coop, and we will give them some electrical plugs also, making that whole situation a lot easier in addition to the barn finally having the power that it needs.
Thanks for joining us back on the Loopy Homestead. If you like our videos, please subscribe and to help us find more Loopy like you. Please like and share them.
There you go, folks, straight from our littlest loopling. Thanks for joining us back on the Loopy Homestead. If you'd like to stay in the loop, please subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to help us find more looplings like you, please like and share our videos. See you next time.
Hi-yaw!